Thank you, silence. Last year, a friend of mine was flying from overseas to Dallas to make a connecting flight to New York City. And while she was there, she met this gentleman who was also making a connecting flight in Dallas, and he was on his way to his hometown, Detroit. It so happened that they sat next to each other and they started up the chat, and it was like connection. And they got very excited about each other, and he did ask at one point, now why are you going to New York City? And she said, well, I'm going to be rehearsing for a play for 6 weeks and then I'm going to be acting in it. And he said, okay, where, when, I'll be there. And that's when she calls me on the phone. She's so excited because, you know, she finds him really nice looking, recently divorced, African-American, world traveler, businessman. And he likes me, she says, because he's going to come see my play. And so without thinking about it, what comes out of my mouth is, well, he may be coming to see you in your play, but he's actually going to New York City to meet me. She said, what? I mean, you know this guy? I said, no. Yeah, no. She said, well, how's that going to happen? I said, because my blueprint told me so. Now, she's known me for so long that when I use the word blueprint, she doesn't believe very much in the witchy-woo stuff, but what I'm talking about when I say blueprint is what I have experienced since I was 25 years old. I have these precognitive, premonition experiences in the dream time. And I call them blueprints because like a blueprint, it's not the house, it's not the building, but it's the plan. And there's a little bit of leeway with any plan, right? But it's the plan. So when that started to happen to me, I did some research because I wanted to understand, well, what's that about? You know, and I found out all kinds of things. It led me to many different places, many different sources. And one of the things that impressed me the most was a quote that I had found by Ramana Maharshi, which is one of the most venerated saints from India of the 20th century. In fact, so much so that Carl Jung himself made a pilgrimage to go sit with this gentleman who died in the 50s. And at one point he said that everything that happens to us is already written from the first moment you take your first breath. And that the only choice you have is how you're going to respond to what happens. Now that's not a very comfortable thought for Westerners, but it made a lot of sense to me because that would explain my blueprints. I got interested in the word written. It's already written, like a law is written, like in the beginning was the word. However you want to look at it, I got fascinated by written. So that might explain my blueprints because imagine for a moment, what's today, August 2nd, 2014, Austin, Texas, and in the book, as it's written of Amparo, and each of you has one, I'm on page 75. And so when I go home tonight and I go to sleep, I might have one of these Dreamtime blueprints which have a very different fabric than just a regular ate too much pizza the night before dream. And I might skip in this metaphor to page 100. And I might land on a couple of sentences, and that's all I drag back with me, or I might land on a paragraph, sometimes a whole page, and when I'm really lucky, or when it seems really significant, the whole chapter. So these blueprints, they have a fabric. They also, often I meet people before I actually meet them. Sometimes they are heralds for loss, betrayal, death. And surprisingly, sometimes they don't just go forward, they go back. And those are the most pineal? You know what I'm talking about. Ones, because I suspect those are past lives. And I wish I could put on plays of those because talk about eclectic. How do you know it's a past life? Well, they're kind of wearing the costume of the but they're in this moment at the same time, and it's actually your aunt who was then your lover. You know, it gets complicated, but I've been doing this for a long time. So, last year, the blueprint about this gentleman, African American, world traveler, business, entrepreneur man, that I am going to meet. I have never said it that way to anyone. Why would I say that? It's really my life, my stuff. But this is a dear friend, and I was trying to protect her because I could tell she was getting amorous and excited. So, I get to New York myself, 6 weeks later after this experience on the phone with her, because I'm going to help her. I'm there for opening night. I'm going to help her get her show up. And that gentleman is right there. And he's there with his grown daughter. She lives in Manhattan. And it's a quick thing, you know, because it's like, hi, how are you? My friend says, this is Amparo. Amparo, this is my friend from Detroit. Hi, nice to meet you. Okay, and I have to run off because it's opening night. There's a lot of things to do. No thunderbolts. None of the things that showed up in the blueprint were present in that moment, which, by the way, let me just give you what the 2 sentences that came for that blueprint were. Dark. I don't want to say romantic, but I guess you could call it that. Dark room, bar-like situation, intimate conversation at a table, other people around. I'm lucid in these times. I'm aware of me. And I'm going, what the hell am I doing in a bar? I don't even drink. What am I doing in a bar? But if you get too that way in these states, you'll wake yourself up. So you don't want to do that either. You just want to go, okay, I'm in a bar. Let's see how I got there. So it appears to be a bar, and he's sitting really to my left, and he's very into me. There's like a laser, boom, and I'm reading it as like a magnetic connection of attraction, but it seems to be coming this way, and that's a little interesting, but I don't really understand it from, you know, where I am in this person the year before. But then, and this is how I know that it's him, I know that what's confusing me about his intensity is that he hasn't gotten over his wife yet. I haven't even met this guy, and I know a bunch of shit already. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, the show goes on, the show's up, I don't know, you know, I lost track of him because again, there was no thunderbolts, like, no, it was just, okay, whatever, it was people at the play, and then we go to the bistro, which is a dark room, and you could say romantic, and there's about 25 people there. I've lost track. He's not sitting next to me, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I was wrong this time. It's okay. That's a relief, actually. But as the evening progresses, I'm in my own table. My daughter is there with me, and some UT students that are now actors are sitting with me, and he doesn't even ever look at me. He's giving me his back the whole time. And my friend is in another table, and I'm thinking, okay, that's cool, wrong person, okay, whatever. We're about to finish our dinner when suddenly my attention goes right to his back. And like I said, he's about 10 feet away from me, his back the whole time. And suddenly his back straightens, and he turns, and he looks at me, pushes his chair back, comes and stands right next to me, and it says, hi. And I'm like, I don't remember that from the blueprint, so you know it could still not be him because I don't remember this crick in the neck thing. And he just continues to how's the weather talk, and you know that whole thing when you're meeting a perfect stranger. And so finally I go, there's a chair there. You're welcome to sit down. And he does. He never gets up until like it's getting obvious that everybody has to go. Even my daughter's kind of looking at me and like, and I have to ask, because remember what I said about the blueprint? This was only a 2-sentence paragraph. I don't know what happens here. I just know this is meant to be, but I don't know what decision I made, if I made one. So I ask, I say, do you mind if I ask you a question? why did you come to this table? He said, well, I suddenly became aware of some energy behind me, and I turned around and saw you. Then I came over. It's nice when that happens. I'm not so sure, frankly, because I have some, remember, he hasn't gotten over his wife. He wasn't trying to poke the wool over my eyes about this. He was newly divorced. But he says, I'm moving to Texas, I think. I'm looking at a house in Houston. Would it be okay to come visit you in Austin? I'm like, because I didn't get, again, the information. I'm like, okay, sure. Well, very quickly, this moves fast in the sense that I thought he was just, talking. No, he calls me within a couple of days. What's a good day? I'm ready to take the plane. And I've had time to sit with this. And I just very straightforwardly say, I really value this friendship possibility if that's what you're interested in. But I'm not complete yet with a previous relationship. And if it's more than that, I'm not going to necessarily be able to meet you there. And I should tell you straightforwardly, I'm intuitive. You have not gotten over your wife. Well, for all the plans that were being made in the airplane and the reservation, I did not hear from him again. So, I could have told you many stories, but I chose this one because it was a teaching one for me about divine law, sacred law. And you're going to have to be a little abstract with me for just a moment, because what I learned from this blueprint, because it was unique. Normally I get the paragraph, the page, and the chapter, and I kind of know where the longer arc is going. I had not done a walk-in part in my own blueprint world. You know what I'm talking about? I was there to deliver one fucking line. You haven't gotten over your wife. Go cry about it. It won't work to try to pick me up about it, basically. In a kind way, because I felt compassion for him at the same time. Now, I don't know what's happened with that one line that I delivered, but it was an aha for me. This has nothing to do with him. It has to do with what I came back from understanding, that there's some things that are pre-designed, and that your life can change when somebody says one thing to you, and one thing only. That was a revelation, and I felt the connection and the extraordinary, invisible hand of something that I don't have any idea. Like Hector says, I'm not trying to explain anything to you, I'm just trying to share my experience about it. So where I want to end this evening with it, as an idea of sacred law, divine law possibilities, is a story about another avatar, and that's, I didn't have a picture of Mayor Baba, but are you guys familiar with Mayor Baba, who he was? Another venerated saint from India, who Americans got very charmed with in the 40s, in the 50s, and in the 60s. Peter Townsend, he dedicated Tommy, that album, to Mayor Baba. Bobby McFerrin, Don't Worry, Be Happy, is a tribute to him because that was his mantra. Well, where I want to end tonight is a story about him. Because this is a God-realized person that one moment in time woke him up. He was just like you and me for the most part, brilliant. And he had a kiss from an awakened person, and it was just on his forehead, and the pineal gland. And from that moment on, he never spoke again. He wrote a couple books, one called God Speaks, but he never spoke again. He had a little board and he'd point to the letters, like, yes, I'll have the green one. Because when he woke up, it was so extraordinary that he realized that words are a problem. There's a yes and a no, and you take a side, and that is a problem. In the blueprint world, yes and no coexist. That's my experience. That's why it was wide open. And it holds paradox, and it holds what we don't know to be true very comfortably. It's me that's waking up and then wakes up the next morning and goes, what? There's no way I'm going to do that. I'm not going to let that hoe walk off with that man. You know, or whatever. Because I have met many a woman that is the lover of the man that I'm just supposed to run off with. And we've had a conversation about it. Don't ask me how and why. I have no idea. So anyway, Mayor Baba, on his trip to the United States, one of them, he's on a train from from Los Angeles to New York City. And it makes a change. There's a little bit of a stopover, not long, in Santa Fe. And when he suddenly just knows he has to get off the train. He gets off the train. The people that know him, you know, that assist him, stay close behind. With, you know, he's got his little board. But he doesn't seem interested in having to explain anything. He doesn't speak. But he walks to the center of town. And he's looking, and then he finds there's a Native American man leaning against a wall. Probably most people would have walked past him, maybe homeless, but God realized, because that was Mayor Baba's specialty. The person with the saliva rolling down the mouth, that's smelly, you don't want to have anything to do with, but they're in God land. But we're going. He goes to this man, he stands right in front of him. They look at each other. And then after a few moments, he goes back, gets on the train. And then through the little board, he says, my work here is done. I know why I came. Meaning to the United States, he saw hundreds and thousands of people. He said nothing to this man. And yet he understood, because he was in that blueprint, big ass reality of divine law. That was the man this time. So, all I'm saying is that there's reason that reason knows not of. And there's this, what did you call it? The three laws, Ted? The government, what did you say, religious?
Religious science.
And science. And then I like that you went to the unknown. And I like that Corey is in the process of becoming a diamond. And I like that my sister is just a wildcat. You can just stop her if you can. But the beautiful part is that we're always just meeting ourselves everywhere we go. So thank you for coming here to meet yourself tonight. And I want to ask the storytellers to come up here and stand up and bring the lights.